Look at the flow on this guy. Look at the flow on this guy. Look, would you look at the flow on this guy? Hey guys, so this is how I swap Turbo LS 5.3 into my 3rd gen Camaro. I brought to Jamie a competitor's edge and he did an amazing job. That's it, nothing fancy, that's it, that's all we did. Not actually a word of a lie, but I will actually explain to you guys what we did, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching today. We're going to go through how I LS swapped my 3rd gen Camaro, some of the pros and cons, and some of the things to watch out for when you're doing an LS swap on these cars. And some of this stuff will be just generic to any kind of car. It doesn't matter for some of the stuff, but this is kind of the stuff that I've found when we LS swapped my car. This application will be for a drag car, so a lot of the stuff will still mix match between what you would be doing with a street car and a race car. Some things will be just pertaining to a race car. To start off, I'm going to let you guys know this is a 85 Camaro Z28 and we did a turbo 5.3 swap in it. It is a full drag car and the swap that we had done with it was with a TH350, so we didn't go with a generic 5.3 transmission. We went with a TH350. To start off, I'll tell you a little bit about the engine build. I didn't build the motor. It was actually built by Jamie at Competitor's Edge. There's always a link in the description of my videos to his channel, so check it out. He does amazing engine builds. He does really good tuning. Awesome guy. Check out his stuff. He's an awesome guy if you're thinking about getting someone to build you a really awesome motor. He also has a really awesome S10 of his own that he races, and I'm not going to give any spoilers on that. It's fast. A little background of the motor. It's a LM4 aluminum block 5.3, so that would be the 5.3 that you'd find in like a Trailblazer. It's also in like an SSR. It's not one that you would find in the Silverado or the Sierra or even in the Express vans, but it's the aluminum block version of the LM7 essentially. Is what it is. This is a stock bottom end, but we did use Gen 4 rotating assembly for it. It has stock style pistons. We did order new pistons for it. It's got flat top pistons now. They're the biggest ones that we could find that would fit in the cylinder, so we didn't have piston slap, but it is still stock style pistons. The crank is a Gen 4 crank that's been polished. The connecting rods are still like your factory style connecting rods. With the oil pan that we put on this thing, we are running a Holley oil pan. It is a 3rd gen F-body oil pan, so it clears the K-member and everything. So that is one thing that I would say that you're going to want to look for when you're doing these builds, is you want to make sure that your oil pan is going to be clearing whatever kind of vehicle that you are going to be installing it in. A lot of companies are making different swap K-members that you can get, so that's not really a hard part to find. So that's good. As far as the cam kit, we are running Brian Tooley Racing Stage 3 Turbo Cam. Yeah, I don't remember everything, but it's a full Stage 3 Brian Tooley Racing Cam kit that we picked up. I forget the exact specs. I don't have the build sheet with me right now. The heads on this motor are 799 heads, so they are some of the better heads. I know a lot of the guys are looking at the 243s or the 823s. We are running the 799 heads. The intake on the motor, we ran with the Holley high rise. For the intake, we wanted to get as much flow as possible. I know some guys have been using the factory intakes on these motors. I just wanted to upgrade. A lot of that also has to do with the fact that I love the way that intake looks. If Jamie's watching this video at all, yeah, I'll never forget when you tried to steal it from me. He really wanted this intake when I brought it in, and I don't blame him. They look phenomenal. It is also a 92mm throttle body from Holley that we're running on there as well. We're running Bosch 210 injectors, turbo piping kit from the exhaust manifolds to the turbo. It is a 3rd gen kit, where this is a kit where it runs back and then underneath the transmission and then collects and then goes forward. So it's not like a forward facing kit. It gives you more clearance clearance in the engine bay when you're trying to get everything figured out with your spacing. So that part is nice. I know a lot of guys do like the forward-facing headers, but I just find that there's more room this way with having them go back and then underneath. Now the turbo that we're using is a VS Racing 80mm turbo. We're also using a VS Racing 50mm blow-off valve, and then we have a 44mm VS Racing wastegate. It is CO2 powered, so we have a kit that we put together with some low dollar motorsports stuff. We're using the low dollar motorsports or dome pressure sensor. I believe this one is good to 100 psi, and then we are running Shiftnoid 5-pound CO2 bottle in the car, which is oversized, but you wouldn't really need to go a big one like that, but it works as a job. And then all the low dollar motorsports, I think if I remember correctly, we ordered the whole kit from low dollar motorsports for like the CO2 lines and all the connectors. It's all quick connect connectors that you get from the low dollar motorsports. We also got the Mac valves from low dollar. Yeah, so that's all in there as well to kind of give us that control of the boost as well. We have had some issues with it, but we're working that out for this next season so that we can get more consistent times. We are using a factory style alternator right now. There is some plans for that that are coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. This one that we have in here is a 145 amp alternator that just comes out of the junkyard. I was in the junkyard with a friend of mine for a couple hours pulling out some parts, and that was just happened to be one of the things we used. It has a stock style alternator bracket, but we do plan on upgrading that yet to an ICT bracket. Those ones are a lot better. They're lightweight. They look a lot better than the factory style brackets. We're just using a LS1 water pump on here as well, so it's mechanical driven. A lot of different guys will kind of choose if they're going to use electric water pumps on these engines or if they're going to use mechanical. There's good and bad with both. With mechanical, because it runs off of your belt at high RPM and you are getting more pressure, which helps when you run down the track. But the nice part with electrical is that if you want to cool everything off a little faster in the staging lanes, and you can have the engine off and have it cycling water, and it can cool things off a little faster that way. Or if you're in the pits and you want to cool it off faster and you're going rounds, that part's a little bit nicer. When it comes to the water pump, that one you can make your own decision on what you're going to do. Right now we're sticking with the mechanical. It hasn't really been that bad. It's a Summit Racing aluminum fit Gen Camaro LS swap rad. It wasn't 100% easy getting it in. I don't think it's a direct fitment. We do a little bit of cutting to make things work. It is technically a direct fit rad. It is a nice rad. I do like the unit. For the intercooler on the turbo kit, we're running a 4-inch wide VS Racing intercooler. They do have a 6-inch wide. That thing is like huge. Now for the balancer on this thing, we were running a stock style balancer. We ended up upgrading and going to a Summit Racing SFI balancer. We were throwing belts. We did shim the alternator forward to try and make it line up properly. We never really got to properly test that to see if it was going to stay on. So what we ended up doing is we put the Summit Racing balancer on, and ever since we did that, I wasn't throwing belts. In some videos, I can try and see if I can find one and put it up so you can see it, but in some videos you can see that the factory balancer was like a little bit offline. So yeah, once we did the Summit Racing one, then it fixed that problem nicely, so that was good. To feed the motor, we were running dual Holley fuel pumps. With that system, we are running before the pre-pump filters and the after-pump filters, so that way we're getting all the proper filtration we need. And then we're running C16 race fuel in the car as well. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I got a banner of Wild Willie fuel fragrances there. Shout out to Wild Willie. The guys at that company are phenomenal, and their customer support's amazing. But we're also running cherry flavoring, like I've said in previous videos, but we're running cherry scent in the car, and it smells amazing. I put it in my quad, and now I can smell it everywhere. I can't thank Jamie at Competitor's Edge enough for the build he did on this car. He did such a good job, and the amount of work and the amount of time he put into this car. The car was over at his place for a while, and the work that they had done was amazing. Honestly, like, this is a dream come true, getting this build all put together. I know there's a few things that I am missing. If you guys have any questions about the stuff that I'm missing on the engine, let me know, and I can answer your questions as good as possible. I could also message Jamie and I could ask him about a lot more of the build sheet stuff on this motor, because he knows way more about the motor than what I do, because he's the master builder. But going into what it actually takes to LS swap your third gen Camaro and some of the generic stuff that you would need, stuff to think about is, first thing, decide what motor you're going to do. If you're going to run with either a 4.8, a 5.3, or a 6 liter, a lot of the stuff is going to be the same, so that part won't really matter too much. If you're going to go bigger, then there's some of the stuff that's going to be a little bit different, but not really much. The other thing is that depending on what transmission you're going to be running, if you're going to be running a 4L60, or if you're on a 4L80, it's going to be a direct mount onto the 5.3, but then you have to worry about your transmission mounts. We are running the TH350, so then there's a little spacer kit that you can get for that transmission, but that's all you really need to be able to mount a TH350 onto a 5.3. That part is pretty nice and easy. You're going to want to think about oil pans. So like I said before, your different brands have different options for oil pans that are direct mount oil pans that will clear K members and any kind of stuff that you need. You can't just take a stock style oil pan from a 5.3 or a 6.0 and then have it fit in whatever you want. Like I said, we have a Holley LS swap pan on this motor so that it clears our K member and then it's not sitting too low and then all of a sudden hitting the ground. The other thing to think about too is your cooling. So with your rad, you won't just be able to run your factory rad. I know there is some swap kits that you can get. I'm sure you could make that work, but in my personal opinion, it is easier just to throw in LS swap rad. I would also make sure that you have dual fans on your rad. The dual fans is a nice feature, and it helps everything cool off nicely. Now, if you're going to be doing an LS turbo swap, then you also want to make sure that you have clearance for intercooler and stuff like that. Now, there is options for intercooler. You also don't have to run intercooler if you're be running a race car. There's other ways to get away with it with not needing an intercooler. Like if you're going to be running E85, some guys are not running intercoolers with E85. They're also doing meth injection as well to get things cooled off. Having an intercooler is good. I believe it is Tick Performance, but I need to look into that again. But they actually make a intercooler that sits underneath. There's you can see with my intake, there's those little bolts on top. So the top section, the bottom section, actually they come apart. And they make an intercooler that sits right underneath or right in between there. So it gives you less stuff you need to worry about that's actually like, needing space in your engine bay, but you will need to think about the clearance. So with us, we have a 6-inch cowl, so we have room. So we could technically go and get that intercooler that goes in between there. Save us some piping and other stuff. We haven't really gotten that far yet with what we're all doing with this build. The other thing that you're going to want to think about too is your engine mounts. So we're using, if I remember correctly, we're running ICT and BMR for our engine mount. Ours has the ability to be able to slide it so that if you need more room to try and fit different drive shaft lengths or fit in the transmission properly or trying to get more clearance in the engine bay to push it forward as much as possible, you can. We currently have it pushed all the way forward, if I remember correctly. I know the one issue that we did have, which doesn't really pertain to doing the LS swap, but it kind of does, is we went from a TH350 to a TH350. But the one thing that we didn't think about when we did that is that our old one was a short tail and the new one is a long tail, so we had to shorten our drive shaft. So that is one thing to kind of think about when you're doing LS swap. If you're going to be just running a factory transmission that comes in these cars, then I'm sure you could probably just get away with it, however it's sitting. Just if you're going to do a swap of transmission, then that's just something to think about. You're going to want to be thinking about fuel pumps. So these cars generically came with low flow fuel pumps, so now you're going to want to be able to get more flow because now you're going to be running EFI, unless you're going to do a carb kit. If you're going to do a carb kit, it's a little bit different. With EFI, if you're going to do the same kit that we're running the Holley Terminator X to power everything. The other thing you want to think about too is exhaust. Obviously, if you're doing a turbo kit, you want to be able to get a turbo kit that's going to be able to fit in the kind of vehicle that you're running. Some guys have, or some brands have kits that actually allow you to just connect up with your factory exhaust. Some have full exhaust kits, so that's something that you also want to think about as well. If you're going to be running a factory ECU, that's something that you can do if you have the ECU from the motor that you picked up. You could also just do a aftermarket ECU, just like what we did. So we're running the Holley Terminator X to run everything, and we have the supporting dashes. Now there is kits as well if you want to use your factory style dashes. They do make kits that go directly to the Holley to your factory dashes so you can still use them, or you can use the touchscreen dashes that Holley comes with, or there's third-party guys that also have dashes that work with the Holley Terminator X, like Tinker Electronics. So in our car, we're running a 7-inch Tinker Electronics dash, and we're also running the 3.5-inch Holley dash. So we're running a splitter to be able to utilize both dashes so we can see as much information as possible. Now, the nice thing is, if you're going to be running the Tinker Electronics dash, it does have a built-in GPS speedometer, so you don't necessarily have to worry about trying to make your speedometer work with your factory gauges. If you buy that dash, you get that GPS speedometer, then it's already built in. So that is one way that you could go. So that's about it for my tips on doing an LS swap on a 3rd gen Camaro. Like I said before, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments and I can help you guys out with as much stuff as possible. If you want to see more how-to videos on 3rd gen Camaros, on LS swaps, on all this stuff, or if you want to see a lot of racing content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like always, guys, stay fueled by faith. Peace.